Clippers fans, sorry, technical difficulties. Just too excited about the Clippers beating the Mavs. As you can see from the title of the hang, it always feels good to beat the Mavs. The Clippers win 118-95 in Dallas. It was almost a nightmare. I don't want to say that it was because the Clippers got the win, but for half of this game, it was not an enjoyable game. Right? The Clippers were super sloppy. In the first quarter, they tightened things up in the second quarter. There was a huge run in the third. I think they scored 39 points in the third. And then it was, the Mavs showed some fight, but there was just some great defense in the fourth, even after a super weird um, uh, Derrick Jones Jr. incident, which we're going to talk about. You don't like to see what happened with Derrick Jones, but the Clippers get the win. The Mavs were without Luka and Kyrie. I don't care. We will take the win no matter what. Delicious. Player of the game, kind of a toss-up if I'm being honest. Norm had 29. He was huge. Zoo had 21 and 15 plus 5 assists, which was really nice. His passing was really good outside of a couple of possessions. But James Harden, of course, 24, 5 and 7. Did have a lot of turnovers. The majority of Harden's turnovers came in the first, excuse me, which made this game stressful in the beginning. If you watch this game, the first quarter was incredibly stressful. They sent the Mavs to the line 11 times in the first quarter, which you're not going to win very many games like that. They cut it down in the second. It was great. Harden started this game pretty sloppy. He had 4 turnovers in the first, none in the second. It was just night and day between kind of what the team looked like in the first quarter, kind of what, for the rest of it. The bench was rough to open this game, but they pulled it out. There was the second half for the bench was a lot better. At halftime, there wasn't a single bench player who was a plus and plus minus. Thankfully, they got their shit together in the second half. But you love to see it, right? The Clippers showed up against a shorthanded Mavs team. I think in the past, we would all have been a lot more worried. This may have been a trap game. But the Clippers have done a great job of showing up to games this season. And again, aside from a sleepy first, which it just maybe looked like they were jet lagged or something, the Clippers get a dub against a Mavs team that was obviously incredibly shorthanded. But they fought, right? Like, I think, what was it? Jason Kidd was talking about how this was like the easiest game he was ever going to, have to coach, like rotation wise. But they fought, right? I mean, the Mavs showed up too to start this one. Klay Thompson was he was on fire. There just were some, I don't know what the word is. It wasn't like the Clippers were just playing slow to start this game. It just wasn't working to start. Caleb Simpkins saying, what a solid win. Mavs were shorthanded, but way to take advantage and get the first game of the series. Exactly, right? This is what you want to see, and what we have been seeing from the Clippers. They show up, and they do what they're supposed to do, which is put away a shorthanded team. Yes, this was harder than maybe we all wanted it to be. We're gonna get some post-game quotes pretty quickly from Ty and stuff like that. We're gonna see what we got from Law Murray and the fantastic beat reporters. But you love it, right? Anytime it's good to beat the Mavs. We absolutely have to talk about the Chris Dunn ejection. We're going to talk about Chris Dunn. We got to talk about Derrick Jones Jr. because he came back and he provided everything that you want Derrick Jones Jr. to provide. He was on a minutes restriction. Clippers needed every single one of his minutes tonight. Same with Amir Coffey. He was fantastic. If you missed it, Chris Dunn got ejected for kind of rightfully so. Excuse me. I don't. What happened before the play was weird. The guy for the Mavs, it was like, I think it was his first start, or his first Gortman, I think is what the kerfluffle happened with. It was crazy. Gortman, I think it was, tried to trip Chris Dunn, he took exception to it. And then he basically choked him. I don't know. I don't know what else to say. He basically choked the guy, and you're gonna get ejected for that. I don't know. It was crazy, Zaire. Very well said. That was a crazy ejection. Got the Olympic mug tonight, the old LA Olympic mug. I don't know if there's going to be a suspension for Chris Dunn. It was a flagrant 2, so I'm sure the office or whatever is going to look at it. I think they got the call right. If you watch the replay, he kind of chokes the shit out of him in terms of in terms of choking someone on a basketball court. Other than one very famous example, I don't know. It was a bad decision by Chris Dunn. The Clippers were able to rally after it, though. It was almost like watching a baseball manager get ejected, and then the team kind of rallies around it. So that was insane. I hope it doesn't. I hope it doesn't happen again. But it was crazy. Watching the replay, it was just like, Chris, what are you doing, man? I know I talked earlier in the stream of just about how good, kind of the big 3 were tonight. Norm Powell, Harden, and Zoo were great. Derek Jones Jr., man. Okay. He only took 4 shots. Half those were threes. He made both of them. It was great to see him back on the court. He played great defense. There was one possession where Grimes was kind of feeling himself and tried to drive, and he was getting nowhere against Derek Jones Jr. So it was awesome to see Derek Jones Jr. out there providing everything you want him to provide for the Clips. Ooh, I'm seeing a spicy take that we're gonna talk about. I want to talk about the game a little bit first. I know what you mean, Quentin. We're gonna talk about it. But I thought Derek Jones Jr. was great. I thought there was a really cool series of events that happened just in terms of getting locked back in, because one of the reasons the Mavs were in this game was because the defense, it didn't have its usual teeth to it. That first quarter, it just wasn't there. They were fouling the shit out of the Mavs. That's what happens. But there were 3 instances tonight where in transition, the Clippers were able to get really big stops. Mo Bamba did one in his second stint. It was when he was playing in the third quarter. Mo Bamba had a great second stint, by the way. First wasn't very good. The second Mo Bamba stint, that was the end of the third, and I think the first 25 seconds of the fourth, he was great physicality. It was nice to see. But he had a stop at the rim. KPJ stopped what would have been a very easy alley-oop by the Mavs, which you love to see. It was nice to see the effort there. And then Nico had another kind of easy bucket stop. So I think if Adam were here, I'm sure we'd be doing Adam's the clips. But those were awesome to see. It was really cool to see that, especially from 3 bench guys, showing the effort, getting stops at the rim against the Mavs. That was huge. Yeah, those were big. Those were big for momentum. The game wasn't, in limbo at the time. But the momentum was on the Mavs side for a lot of kind of late in this game, a little scary, even to open the fourth. But it was huge. Credit to where it's due. KPJ stopped that oop. Batum stopped one. Bamba stopped an oop or got a block right at the rim. It was that kind of stuff, I think, really shows what the Clippers ethos is, 3 bench guys getting big stops on what should be easy buckets for the other team is kind of what this Clippers team's all about. So hats off to those 3 possessions. That was phenomenal. It was really exciting to see. Zoo to open the fourth was awesome. He went right at Derek Lively, who was talking crazy this summer on podcasts. I would just love it if every athlete just stopped doing podcasts. He was playing like the biggest guy out there. Zoo didn't get a lot of touches early. I don't think that's a surprise to a lot of people. He only ended up with 13 field goal attempts, but he was crazy efficient. He gets to 21 and 15. It was just it felt good. The first quarter was shaky. They figured it out. The Mavs had a little bit of momentum to open the fourth, but then it was just kind of, then we got to see Norm Powell do his thing and just kind of, close the curtain on the Mavs, really. So you really absolutely love to see that. It was good shit. Yeah, good defensive effort. Again, not the Mavs' best, obviously, but as you can see from the title of the thing, it always feels good to beat the Mavs. Derek Jones Jr. Gave a kiss to the crowd late in the fourth, which we love it. We love to see that. We love the pettiness. We're going to see what happens on Saturday. If Kyrie and Luka are healthy on Saturday, I don't know what happens. I was on the last episode Adam and I did. I was going to be hyped if we just split this, this little baseball kind of series they have right now. But they have a chance to get not sweep, because I don't know if you can sweep for 2 games. But Derek Jones Jr. at 20 minutes, right at his minutes restriction, even with the Dunn ejection. Norm had to play 37. Harden played 35. We might see some tiredness on Saturday. But hey, we got the first dub, which is incredibly crucial. Yeah, it was good. Let me know who you guys think the player of the game is. I think there's a handful of guys who it could be. Yes, so this is a huge thing. Thank you for bringing this up, Joe Y. Adam Oslin, one of the other hosts of the show. If you're new to the show, by the way, I'm Chuck Mockler. Usually it's Adam Oslin, Will Updike, and myself. Adam is working. He's the radio guy for the Clippers, so he is working. Will is in Montana. I don't know what he's doing. But I am here drinking a Budweiser out of the Budweiser Olympic mug. Hope you have a nice little beverage. But Adam has talked about this. We saw Derek Jones Jr. hit a lot of threes in the playoffs against us, which sucked ass. And then when we got him, everyone was kind of like, oh, I hope he can play like in the playoffs for the regular season. And he's done that for the most part. He's always going to have low attempts on the threes. But yeah, the 41% is huge. Anything above league average from Derek Jones Jr. is huge. Maybe there's a regression coming. Who knows? But right now it was needed. And it was great to see him hit his threes in the return game, right? You never know how the hamstring's going to react once you're back, just in the flow of a game. So it was awesome. Jeremy Mormon with a great point. Jeremy was surprised to see Derek Jones Jr. come back early from injury. This is a new feeling for Clippers fans. Derek Jones Jr.'s back. Kawhi Leonard, all the smoke is circling around December 27th for his return. Terrence Mann is on schedule, which to me, on schedule for a Clippers player who's injured is ahead of schedule. So it's great to see the team is really coalescing well. Almost kind of for the second time getting Derek Jones back. And I'm sure it's going to look great with Terrence Mann back too. So it was good. It was good to see. Joe Y is giving player of the game to Harden. I think that's fair. So this was nice about James Harden. 4 turnovers in the first quarter, 2 the rest of the game. That's fantastic. It was nice for him to cut that down. He hit all 10 of his free throws. I'm not mad at that pick. That's a good pick, Joe. There's really there's not a lot of people you could choose that I would disagree with. There's one. I thought the bench in this one, I haven't even talked about Amir yet. What are we doing here? Amir was phenomenal. In a game where the Clippers needed their bench, right? Like Amir had 16 points and we needed every single one of them. I know that the score line is fairly lopsided, of course. It's, a plus 20 win. There was a time in this game when it was close and it was maybe going to be not as fun of a live stream hangout after this. And Amir was a big part of that. I think in his first 9 minutes, he had 7 points. So shout out to Amir. Stepped up, played a lot of minutes tonight. 25 minutes off the bench for Amir, and he was great. Had a couple of fouls, but the whistle was weird. The whistle was odd tonight. Harden had a shitty offensive foul called on him during the time when the game was kind of in limbo, which was a little annoying. We didn't like that. It's still crazy Dunn choked that guy. Sorry. Yeah, that was nuts. Zoo was fighting tonight, and it was good. Zoo looked a little pissed off, too. I don't mean that in a bad way. He looked upset maybe with some of how the play was unfolding in the first quarter, and then he was pissed at the refs, who were weird tonight. The refs were wonky tonight. Keep putting your thoughts in the chat. Thank you, everyone, for hanging out. I still have a lot of beer left, so we're gonna hang out Damn. Oh, this is crazy. Zoo had 21, 15, and 5. First Clipper with at least 20, 15, and 5 game on 75% field goals since DeAndre Jordan, which is pretty cool. I would also bet that all of DeAndre Jordan's buckets in that game were dunks. Zoo was showing off some interesting shots tonight. Zoo had, there was one possession where Lively was kind of like, I think it was in the fourth, where Lively was kind of letting Zoo body up on him, but Zoo just, he was great. It was right at that circle. He had that little push shot that he's been able to hit kind of further out every single season. It was good to see. I love this point from Joe Y. Ty Lue going with Nico over Amir despite him playing well was a very nice decision. Nico was peak Nico Batum tonight. He did every little thing well for the most part. He played good defense. He shot horribly. He was 1 for 5 tonight. It was not a good shooting night for Nico Batum. That aside, 4 boards, 3 assists. He was making plays on defense. He was really helping kind of clamp down when the Clippers needed it. Ty was great with the rotations. Ty's been good with the rotations for the most part this whole year. So thank you for bringing up Nico. He was real freak shit from Nico tonight, and it was good to see. What's up, JDog777? Mark Jag, the reason that it seems like Derek Jones Jr. was on a minutes restriction was because he was. He was going to play around 20 minutes. He played 20 minutes and 11 seconds. It went perfectly. You never want the minutes restriction to be broken in a game against a team that's missing their 2 best players. So it was nice to see Derek Jones Jr. not only be right at the minutes restriction, but be incredibly effective in his minutes within that restriction, if you will. Got some more Amir love. 7 for 10 off the bench was huge. This is what makes, kind of back to Joe's point, this is what makes going with Batum late so good too. Ty Lue recognized we needed a little more defense, and Nico was the perfect guy to provide that. It was basically the starters with Nico in the spot for Norm, I believe. I might be off on that, but it was great. Everyone, it's just good shit. Again, always good to beat the Mavs. I do want to go back to a point. If you have more questions about the game, pop it in the chat. I do want to go back to a point that Quentin brought up. Quentin is saying, Chuck, that's me, we need to capitalize on Norm Powell right now. And by capitalize, I'm assuming that Quentin means we should trade Norm Powell. Because from a trade value aspect, I'm not advocating for this yet. From a trade value aspect, there will never be a better return for Norm Powell. There just won't be. And that I want to keep Norm Powell. I don't know if the front office is ready to trade Norm Powell. And just emotionally, I don't want to trade Norm Powell. But his trade value, we have to acknowledge, is the highest it will ever be as of December 19th, 8:19 p.m. It is really high. I don't want to trade Norm. I also, for what it's worth, I don't think the front office would trade Norm. We're getting some pushback in the chat, Quentin. I'm sorry, but it would hurt. And do they need to? I mean that genuinely, right? Like, they can't trade Norm for someone who can't fill in for point guard, because we need someone who can bring the ball up and initiate an offense. Right now, the backup point guard is Kevin Porter Jr. Right now on the team, he is the second best, or maybe third, or close to where Norm is at, with getting, the offense initiated and stuff like that. So I don't know who the trade is, if they were to trade Norm, which I don't think they should do. The contract value is crazy. Obviously, we don't know what next season is going to look like with Norm. I don't expect him to replicate what he's doing now. He'll be close, but it's not going to be 1 for 1. This is a fantastic year from Norm. But again, trade value wise, this is for a front office that has traded stuff. Quentin, I'm not in the business, buddy. I can have an emotional attachment. You complete lunatic. I respect this take, but I'm going to continue to have an emotional attachment to a player that I like. That's so funny. And I'm not making the decisions. Joe Y seemingly on Team Quentin saying Sexton for Colin Sexton. The moves, I don't know. It's a weird position to be in. I'm not going to pretend, I'm not going to pretend that maybe there's a deal out there. It's a weird spot to be in. His salary is nice for what the Clippers are kind of going for, with the new apron rules and stuff like that. Let me look up what he's at because it's not, okay, it's kind of a lot. He's at 19 and he's at 20 next year. He's an expiring next year. So it's a weird one. If Denver offers Michael Porter Jr. in a first-round pick, would they do that? Is that a realistic offer? Michael Porter Jr. in a first-round pick for Norm Powell? I mean, then sure. Like, that would be good. I just don't think they would do that. I'm also dying at someone saying take the emotional part out of it. I'm not going to do that. That's what makes being a fan fun. You weren't gutted when they traded Lou after he broke the bench scoring record the day after. That was horrible. Not the worst point from Mark Jag. Norm plays well with Kawhi. It's been proven in Toronto. That was a minute ago. But Norm has been playing really well. Like I don't think the front office would trade him. I'm not sure. Also, what is Michael Porter Jr.'s salary? But he's making $35 million a year. So I don't even know why I entertained the Michael Porter Jr. That trade doesn't work. You can't trade Norm Powell for Michael Porter Jr. because there's a cool $15 million the Clippers would have to make up. Quentin, that's because the salaries work. The Clippers would have to add $15 million. It's not. Who are they adding in that trade? So this is the issue. Splint, thank you for bringing, because we should talk about the trade stuff because there's some guys eligible after the 15th of December and there's guys eligible starting January 15th. So here is why Splint is saying package KPJ and Bones for a steady point guard if anyone good is available. Nobody wants KPJ and Bones. I don't mean, like, we got Bones for 2 seconds and his value, if anything, has gone down. The only people I think on the Clippers that could be used to get a player who would make the team better are Norm, Terrence, part of a package probably involving Norm, and then I don't know who else the team would trade, because then we're looking at really shaky depth. Scott Bossy. Scott, is that your real last name? Kudos to your name, Scott Bossy. Some great passing from Norm tonight, specifically. He had 5 assists, but he had a lot of nice connector plays and stuff like that. I think Norm, early in the season too, we saw Norm kind of like do some things passing wise where it was like, oh shit, okay, let's do it. Also vote Norm for the All-Star. Vote Norm, Harden, and Zoo for the All-Star right now if you can. That'd be cool. Great point by Scott. I'm actually going to look that up right now. Just kind of what his yeah, I mean, he's averaging the most assists he's averaged since 21-22. He averaged 1 assist last year. He's at 2.5 this year. He's at basically, which again, not a lot, but his passing has been good. This is a good point, Scott. I'm going to need y'all to look at the Clippers payroll before you kind of throw some of these trade ideas out. Bones Highland makes $4 million this year. Yeah, so Norm, I guess it would almost make sense for the team to trade Norm next year. I know the value, Quentin, I agree with you. The value will never be higher. than right now for Norm Powell. I love Norm. We can't pretend, that his value will be higher than this. But he's expiring next year if he has a hot start. The front office has said they're going to wait for the books to open up after next season, and then we're going to see some big movement. I think that's still probably the plan. Yeah, and it does depend too. The second part of this is interesting. Does the front office think that this is the year, right? If the front office thinks that this is the year, to really go all in or do whatever and make a big swing at the deadline, then Norm probably does get traded. But I don't know if they make that decision. Because this team's pretty thin on depth. Right? Like KPJ is the backup point guard, which in the playoffs is going to be an issue. Amir and Nico that's the 7-man rotation, right? Once Kawhi is back, it's the starting 5. Well, the 8-guy rotation is the starting 5, and then Dunn, Amir, and Nico. Everyone below that line isn't really going to put us over the top in the playoffs. You know what I mean? So I think that's where the front office is kind of in a bind. Do they take a swing and think that this is their year to win a chip? A lot of that depends on what Kawhi looks like when he comes back, which it seems like it's going to be the 27th. So I don't know. I don't think it's crazy to think they might trade Norm Powell. Again, the value's crazy. This is a front office that looks at that shit quite a bit. So it's interesting. David R. saying they may be able to get Lonzo Ball for KPJ Bones and PJ Tucker. I mean, the salaries work, but that's such a shitty package for Lonzo Ball. That's so bad. The Bulls are trying to tank, though, right? I don't watch a lot of the Bulls. I know they're bad. But are they trying to really tank? Have they won? What are they at? I don't know. I don't know if the Bulls can tank that hard. The Wizards have 4 wins. The Bulls are bad, and they have 13. The Bulls have 3 fewer wins than the Clippers. So I don't know. Bamba in the playoff rotation, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe. Not for a lot of minutes. Bamba, again, second shift Bamba tonight. Loved it. Absolutely loved the activity. Missed his threes, but whatever. If you're just joining the hang, this is the It Always Feels Good to beat the Mavs pod. I am enjoying a large Budweiser. The Clippers beat the Mavs 118-95 behind a great performance from Norm Powell, James Harden, and Zoo. The return of Derrick Jones Jr. was awesome to see. People want to trade Norm Powell. Put in the chat who you would trade Norm Powell for realistically. Because I just don't know if it's going to happen. I don't think that trading Norm Powell is going to happen. Yeah, I don't know. Wow, the Broncos lost? Shit. Put your questions in the chat about what you think is going to happen. The Clippers play the Mavs again on Saturday. I'm interested to see what the lineups look like on Saturday because Derrick Jones Jr. was questionable tonight. He looked great in his 20 minutes. Maybe they give him some weird rest. I don't know. Unclear on if Luka and Kyrie are going to be ready on Saturday. Game looks a lot different because if the Clippers come out on Saturday and start the game like they did tonight against a shorthanded Mavs team, things are going to be a lot more difficult. Again, if you missed this game, it was not a pretty start from the Clippers. A lot of turnovers. Defense wasn't exactly locked in, but then they figured it out. And there's, I'm assuming, some fatigue issue with the Mavs. They only had like 8 guys they were playing. Sorry, just looking at Brandon. Brandon Ingram makes $36 million a year. So add another $16 million from the Clippers. That's what I'm saying about the Clippers also are in a weird spot trade-wise, right? Like, if you add $15 million to that, you're looking at, like, if they want to dump PJ Tucker, he's at 11. Terrence is at 11. Like, there's guys that it's hard to work a trade. Quentin, you're gonna have to look that up, buddy. I'm not doing the math for you, but please just use Google. I'm actually going to go ahead and put this in the chat for everybody. Respectfully, here is all the salaries for the Clippers. Check it out. Okay, funnily enough, Obi Toppin is weirdly a guy I've wanted to be a Clipper for a minute. He does what the Clippers need, which is run very quickly down the court on offense and finish dunks. He is I can't even make that comparison. He'd be a nice depth piece to have. That would be good, but he's kind of having a good season. Aren't they kind of liking what he's doing over there? Yeah, the Pacers kind of like him. He's playing like 20 minutes a game. And shit,